We've always heard that dolphins are our soulmates under the sea, and you may have read some of the studies of what they can do. They can listen to a human voice and mimic it with their own sounds. They can memorize different configurations of 7 or 8 symbols, the same way that we remember different telephone numbers. But it's one thing to learn that dolphins have intelligent brains, and another to learn that they have sympathetic hearts, if you will, human kindness. John Quinones traveled to the Florida Keys, where he found a kind of magic rapport between handicapped children and dolphins, a phenomenon described now by sociologist Betsy Smith.
For more than 50 million years, long before man ever walked the earth, they have graced this dark underworld with majestic beauty. For decades, we've known them as the most intelligent creatures of the sea, next on the intellect scale to humans and primates. It now turns out they may be smarter and perhaps more sensitive than we thought. Scientists at Dolphins Plus, a research center in the Florida Keys, have discovered that dolphins display a surprising array of human-like feelings, like joy and compassion, particularly for children who are physically or mentally impaired. Children like 5-year-old Joey Hoagland.
Never, ever did I expect a baby to come this way, or to be hurt this way, or to have to suffer in that way.
Joey was born with truncus arteriosus, a rare congenital heart disease that robs the body of oxygen. By the time he was 3 years old, Joey had undergone 3 open heart surgeries. After the last operation, he suffered a stroke. The left side of Joey's body was paralyzed. He was blind in his left eye. Dina and Peter Hoagland could only watch as their infant son lay in a coma for 8 days.
He was absolutely limp. He was less than a newborn. He didn't have swallow response. He couldn't talk. He couldn't cry. There were times when, 2 times that I can remember, that the doctors came in and said, "We don't think that you should leave. We think that maybe he's not going to make it."
Joey finally came out of the coma. Doctors said he might even recover. But after such a long ordeal, he refused to cooperate with doctors or physical therapists.
The kid was petrified. Can you imagine yourself being in a coma and waking up to something like that with bleeping machines?
He didn't trust humans.
I was concerned he wouldn't trust us.
The Hoaglands had just about given up hope for Joey's recovery, but then they heard about a natural dolphin habitat in Key Largo, Florida.
Dolphins Plus is a research center, not an entertainment resort. So there are no shows here where the dolphins perform tricks for the crowd. In fact, here, the dolphins are free to swim out to sea if they choose. And while they're taught to respond to hand signals, they don't have to earn their food by performing. Whatever interaction there is with humans here is strictly at the dolphins' discretion.
Although the emphasis is on research, the center does allow a select group of properly trained visitors to swim with the dolphins. It was at one of these sessions 13 years ago that Betsy Smith, a sociologist at Dolphins Plus, noticed that her mentally retarded brother showed improved mental agility after swimming with dolphins. After a bit more experimenting, she discovered the dolphins worked especially well with children.
As soon as I put a handicapped child in the water, this dolphin relaxes, becomes very different, very, very quiet and calm, and will stay with and work with that child as long as it takes.
By the time Joey arrived at the center last year, the 12 dolphins who live here had helped dozens of children.
That's part of what we call their altruistic behavior. They care for their sick, and they care for their ailing and their elderly. And we think it's an extension of what's natural behavior for the dolphin. You communicate, you care, you live in synchronicity, we call it. They're being dolphins.
When he first laid eyes on the dolphins, Joey was shy and apprehensive. But then a friendly dolphin named Fonzie swam up to greet him. And though Joey was afraid to get into the water, Fonzie would not take no for an answer. A few days later, the swim therapy began.
Great job.
Joey weighs 40 pounds, Fonzie 700 pounds. Yet when Joey couldn't move his leg, the powerful dolphin nuzzled up and gently moved it for him. When Joey couldn't lift his arms above his head, Fonzie would toss out a ball and make Joey toss it back. Pretty soon, Joey, who couldn't unclench his paralyzed hand, was practicing in his sleep so that someday he could grab a fish to feed Fonzie.
I heard him talking, so I went into his room, and he was fast asleep, going, try again. Open, shut them. Open, shut them. Just keep trying, and you'll get it.
What did Fonzie do that medicine couldn't provide?
Emotional therapy.
Chris Blankenship is a marine biologist and Joey's therapist.
But this is a dolphin.
I think that there is an aspect to dolphins that no one yet really understands.
Exactly what does Fonzie understand about Joey's illness? Well, no one knows for sure, but some experts believe dolphins can sense when a person is ill. Already, some studies show that dolphins display a powerful stress-reducing effect on children. Kids who swim with them become deeply relaxed and therefore much more receptive to teaching.
These animals are not just unfeeling, swimming hunks of meat.
Doctors John Schul and David Smith are scientists and experts on animal behavior. They've just completed a 2-year study on the mind of the dolphin. They taught a dolphin named Nachua to respond to different pitches of sound underwater, as seen on this videotape. Watch the 3 panels at the bottom of the screen. When Nachua heard a high-pitched tone, he learned to push the panel on the right. When he heard a low tone, he pushed the one on the left. But then the researchers made things a little more difficult on Nachua by playing tones that were neither high nor low.
He starts to make a lot of errors and gets a little upset with us during that phase of the experiment. But at that point, we give him a third paddle that he can press, which he can press to escape into an easier trial.
And that, say the researchers, was their most important finding. Nachua knew when to say, "I don't know."
We know that he doesn't know the right answer there. And the fact that he uses this bailout response on those trials suggests to us that he knows that he doesn't know the right answer there.
Why is it so important for us to know that?
If you realize that these are thinking, feeling, perhaps self-aware animals, you realize that they have a much deeper kind of relationship to you.
A relationship with humans, the researchers say, is greatly enhanced by the dolphin's remarkable sonar capacity.
They can perceive very fine variations in hardness and texture and size using their hearing alone.
So they can read a human being in the water, for instance.
They can read a human being in the water, and given what we know about sonar, there's reason to suspect that they may be able to use their sonar to perceive things that are going on within the skin. The same way that physicians now use ultrasound in order to get a look at fetuses in the womb.
That sensitive sonar, say scientists, may allow dolphins to detect certain handicaps in humans. That comes as no surprise to Dina Hoagland, who's convinced that Fonzie knows exactly what he's doing for Joey.
Wow! Something very wonderful happened. They developed a friendship, and Fonzie accepted Joe just the way he was and showed Joe what he could do. Fonzie never concentrated on what Joe couldn't do.
After just 8 months of therapy, Joey now lugs a heavy pail of fish to feed his buddy.
Look it right out of my hand.
Once he couldn't move a finger on his left hand. Now he wiggles it away, for that's the signal that makes Fonzie talk, dolphin style. He still takes daily doses of medicine to keep his heart beating properly.
To relax the muscle in the heart.
But aside from the medicine, Joey seems as normal as any other 5-year-old.
There were doctors that said he would never run. There were doctors that said that he would always walk with a limp. There was a speech therapist that told me he would never sing.
What has Fonzie done for you?
He helps me get better.
A few weeks ago, the boy who once couldn't walk jumped into Fonzie's world for the ride of his life.
I'm always in awe that this is my little boy with a 700-pound dolphin. Their relationship is kind of like two best friends that are secret pals that share something so very special that they'll both know about for the rest of their lives and will never, ever forget.